Welcome back everybody to another episode of Direct Comparison. In today's episode, we're going to explore the differences between the less than stellar Rage 1 from 2011 and what new features and graphical enhancements have been made for the upcoming sequel, Rage 2, set to release sometime in early 2019. Please be aware that since we're using compressed video footage from the most recent gameplay trailer for Rage 2, Rage 1 might appear crisper at times, but the purpose of this video is really to demonstrate all the new features and quality of life improvements made for this post-apocalyptic shooter franchise. Alright, so because I don't want to miss any details here, I'm going to run through all the scenes shown off in the trailer and talk about the features being showcased, and how they might compare to what was featured in the original game. So, starting off, we have a look at our primary assault rifle, or maybe it's an SMG, I'm not really sure. This weapon has a completely different appearance than both available assault rifles in the original Rage. The closest weapon model to this new one was the Authority assault rifle, though this new weapon sports a hollow sight instead of the more unique telescopic sight featured in the original game. Considering you can unlock upgrades for weapons in the first game, it's very likely this new Rage will allow for more weapon customization, including the ability to tweak weapon skins. Now, I'm not positive on this, but the weapon shown in the trailer looks like it might have a custom skin applied. Also, in the original Rage, you could swap between different ammo types, with some bullets being necessary for certain types of enemies. They didn't explicitly demonstrate this yet, so I'm curious if this feature will be making a return. Wing sticks, one of the more unique weapons in the original Rage, have also made a return, and seem to be more advanced than ever. In the original Rage, wing sticks would be thrown instantly, and could kill weaker enemies with a single hit. You would eventually acquire a more advanced wing stick that could hit multiple enemies, but that's about it. In Rage 2, wing sticks can be upgraded to do things like juggle enemies in the air, or even target enemies that are hiding behind cover. You could also prime wing sticks, something that I'm pretty sure you couldn't do in the original game. Next, we get a look at the shotgun, which also looks nothing like the shotgun made available in the original game. This new shotgun looks more like a double barrel shotgun, whereas the first game had a single barrel. But the interesting part of this clip is the new powers made available to the player, a feature that was never available in the original game. This is shown in almost every clip throughout the demonstration, and highlights the new focus Rage 2 seems to be taking on combat customization and style. Players can now launch enemies into the air and throw them up against walls with a sort of sonic blast ability. Later on in the video, there's several examples of the slam ability, where the player can drop down on top of a group of enemies and send them flying with a kinetic blast. Prior to using this ability, the player throws some sort of portable jump pad on the ground, which is likely the same device used to suspend enemies in the air, but I'm not really sure. There's also the Overdrive ability, which boosts the player's health and damage for a short period of time, and causes enemies to explode with almost every shot. The only other weapon we're given a look at is what appears to be a rocket launcher, which again has taken on a completely different appearance from its predecessor, but still seems to function the same way. Next, I want to take a moment to talk about enemy types, as this was a big problem with the original Rage. Rage's enemy variety was significantly lacking for an id game. Rage 2 seems to be directly addressing this problem, and features a much larger variety of enemies. There's still some standard bandits with multiple factions and their own unique weapons, but we also have special enemy types like these guys that hold electric swords that also seem to be deflecting bullets. There's also some advanced soldier type enemies that can cloak themselves, mutants, and even mechs. Rage 1 had a few unique enemy types, but they were rare and didn't do enough to mix up the gameplay, so hopefully Rage 2 doesn't suffer the same problem. Alright, so now we need to talk about the biggest improvement to Rage 2, and that's the open world environment. Rage was technically an open world game, but it never really felt like it due to the frequent load times and general limitations of the world. Sure, you can get out of your vehicle and walk around, but there wasn't really a reason to do so unless you were walking towards a door into a specific mission area. Rage 2 boasts a much bigger open world environment, with no load times, and significantly more variety. Thanks to the game taking place 30 years after the events of the first game, the environment in Rage 2 is more colorful and diverse. There's different biomes like deserts, jungles, and swamps as opposed to the original game's Mad Max-inspired wasteland. These new biomes allow for more varied gameplay, and even more enemy variety with different factions ruling over specific districts. This should really help to address that mundane, boring feel present in the original game, and make the world feel more connected than before. And with this new, much more open-ended environment comes some big improvements to Rage's vehicle gameplay, another core element to the Rage franchise. The original Rage allowed you to drive around in various vehicle types like ATVs and buggies, and featured a decent amount of customization. You could attach weapons like miniguns, rockets, and mines, in addition to tuning your vehicle with better tires, engines, and armor. Rage 2 seems to expand on this concept with a ton more vehicle variety, and hopefully more options for customization. Rage 2 also gives you a reason to care about upgrading your vehicle. In Rage 1, there was never really a reason to upgrade your vehicle, as most of the main missions just had you ditching your vehicle at the front door. Rage 2's open world is more seamlessly connected, and the road to and from objectives will feature more to do in and around your vehicle, from armored convoys to enemy checkpoints. Now, I'm not sure if the convoy shown in this gameplay trailer was part of the main story missions, or if it was a demonstration of one of the more open world activities, but it still looks awesome and reminds me a lot of the Mad Max video game that came out a few years ago. Based on the footage shown, you're no longer limited to narrow canyons, but can instead cut straight across the world and explore to your heart's content. This is due in part to Avalanche Studios, the team behind the popular Just Cause open world games, helping id with the open world aspects of the game. And that about wraps up everything we're talking about from a gameplay perspective, so let's briefly go over some of the visual improvements with Rage 2. Again, we're dealing with footage from a trailer that will likely look compressed after being re-edited and posted on YouTube, but we can still make out some improvements to effects that were made to the game. First off, we have some nice volumetric smoke and lighting effects, which create some really impressive looking scenes like this opening clip here. Notice how the shadows from the railings in the background are being projected onto the volumetric smoke. Another very important improvement is the texture resolution. Rage 1 by default suffers from some serious texture pop-in problems due to the nature of the old id Tech engine. There's ways around it with mods on the PC, but this shouldn't be necessary with Rage 2. All of the textures, even with the video compression in this trailer, seem to be rendered properly at all times, and I didn't notice any bad LOD pop-in during the vehicle demonstration. I also expect this newer game to feature an unlocked frame rate, as the original game by default is locked at 60 frames per second. Thanks to the new focus on variable biomes, we get a much richer color palette, with bright greens, yellows, and blues of the forests and swamps mixed in with the white-hot deserts and wastelands. Particle effects play a big role in the combat and really help to enhance the scene, and the new variable time of day in Rage 2 will likely help to really immerse players in a way Rage 1 couldn't accomplish with its static lighting effects. Other improvements include more realistic character models, depth of field to help create more cinematic cutscenes, and an overall cleaner and more polished experience. Explosive effects, which honestly still hold up pretty well in the original Rage, have been drastically improved with Rage 2 as well. Now, just like the Doom video I did before, I'm going to try and give you guys a sound comparison, but because the Rage 2 video is heavily narrated, and we're dealing with low quality YouTube audio compression versus directly captured footage and audio in the first Rage, that can account for a lot of the differences. Still, we get a slight sense of the audio direction they're taking with the new game, and I'll be sure to make a more accurate sound comparison when the final game is finally released. I also want to point out that if you listen carefully, you can hear the player's character talking out loud, despite the original Rage having a silent protagonist, which indicates we might have a more narrative-driven experience this time.
Check it out! Where's our bloody backup? Move it! There he is! I'm gonna smash your face in! Move it! Send in the other!
Ability on him.
Holy shit! Oh, hell yeah!
Is an all-purpose death machine. A rolling Rube Goldberg of pain.
Rage 2 seems to be doing everything right. We don't know if the poorly executed story or the technical problems that plagued the original game will make a return, but we do know that the actual gameplay has been improved substantially, with new powerful abilities, a cleaner appearance, and a far more interesting open world to explore. It's surprising to see how little attention this game is getting, but it's understandable considering how underwhelming the first game was. Still, I think Rage 2 has potential to be a great game, and it's worth keeping an eye on. And if you want to stay up to date on everything related to Rage 2 and the rest of the industry's biggest games, make sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this posted every week.